When you're buying a Mac, you're not just buying a computer. For me, there's always been an emotional attachment to it, whether that be the beautiful design or the experience of just using it. When a product is seamless and a pleasure to use, you find yourself using it a whole lot more. And for me, the Mac embodies this. With a Mac, I'm more productive and I don't feel any barriers stopping me from doing my work. Now, there hasn't been a better time to buy a Mac. With Apple Silicon powering most of the Apple lineup now, you can be sure that when you buy a Mac, it's going to last you for years to come. Now, if you're unsure which Mac is the one for you, then hopefully I can make this decision a little easier for you. If you're a student, then honestly, it's a no-brainer. Get the MacBook Air. It's light and portable enough that you can take to lectures, cafes, and on your travels, and it's powered by the excellent Apple M1 chip. And if you're not sure what this is, check out my shorts video on the M1. But for you, and for most people, what this means is that it should be able to handle everything you throw at it. Apps should open fast, everything should feel snappy, and it's ready to go when you are, and not the other way around. It can even handle some 4K editing, and while it can slow down on some more complex projects, it's more than enough for the casual edit. Additionally, battery life on the MacBook Air is incredible. It should be able to handle a whole day of school or university. When getting the MacBook Air, you'll have a few different options to choose from. I'd say the base model is actually enough for most people. You can upgrade from the base model to get a slightly more powerful M1 processor, but honestly the performance difference won't be night and day. You can choose between 8GB or 16GB of unified memory. Put very simply, unified memory stores information that your computer is actively using, so it can be accessed quickly later on. Ordinarily, I'd say go for 16GB of memory, but with the Apple M1 chips, it uses its memory so efficiently and it's so well optimized that 8GB should be enough for most people. If you tend to have lots of programs open, or you want to do a little bit more video editing, then go for the 16GB, as you won't be able to change this later on. And finally, you'll have to decide what storage capacity you want. The default for the MacBook Air is 256GB, and honestly, I don't think this is enough storage. I think 512GB is the sweet spot. Now, obviously you can add external hard drives or supplement it with cloud storage, but with larger software updates and potentially large student projects, I think you want to go for a larger default capacity, just to future-proof your purchase. Honestly, the MacBook Air is such a good deal. At its price point, you won't find anything that balances performance and battery life, as well as the MacBook Air. Now, it has been out for a little while now, and there are rumors of a successor with an M2 chip. So, if you're not in a rush, maybe it's worth waiting just a little longer. If in your studies you're doing something a little bit more intensive, such as 3D work or more complex video editing, then you might need something a little bit more powerful. And in this case, I'd recommend going with the base 14-inch MacBook Pro. It's powered by the M1 Pro processor, which pumps out even more power than the M1 processor. It comes with an amazing screen. Honestly, once you've seen a screen like this, you'll never want to go back. The screen has excellent color accuracy and goes very bright, so it's very much suited for video editing, graphic design, and photography. Battery life is pretty good too, not quite as good as the MacBook Air, but you're getting a lot more power here. You also get a striking new design, and whether you like it or not, the notch is here to stay. And there are plenty of ports as well, which is such a relief, so you can say goodbye to dongle life. Just like the MacBook Air, you might want to opt for some more storage, depending on your workflow. The MacBook Pro 14-inch, even the base model, is expensive, but I do think it's of good value. For this price, you're getting a computer that has an amazing screen, power comparable to some of even the best desktop computers out there, all in a slim and beautiful package. Not everyone needs a computer that has all of the bells and whistles, and for those people, I have 3 recommendations: the MacBook Air, the Mac Mini, and the iMac 24-inch. Now, obviously portability is a deciding factor here. If you know you want to take your computer with you on the go, for travels, take it to a cafe, then the de facto choice is the MacBook Air. And the great thing is, you're not really compromising anything here. It has the same chip as both the Mac Mini and the iMac 24, but in a portable form factor. If you're just looking for a Mac for general home use, and you already own a monitor, keyboard and mouse, then the Mac Mini is a really great deal. It's the cheapest Mac by far, but it still offers the same performance as the other M1 Macs. It has a nice compact design so it can easily fit on a desk, but be aware that you need to buy some of the other peripherals separately, so a webcam and speakers for example, to make the most out of them. Just a warning, the Mac Mini has been out for about 18 months now, so it's likely that they're going to refresh it sometime this year. So if you can hold off, then maybe it's worth the wait. But even if you need one right now, it's still a fantastic deal. So what if you don't have a monitor lying around, and you just want a no-fuss all-in-one computer that does it all? Well, that's the iMac 24-inch. It's a relatively affordable, beautifully designed computer that comes in a variety of colours. It's honestly such a statement piece. I can see people just buying this to add some colour to their environment. It has a 24-inch display which is perfect for web browsing and for multimedia viewing, and it also has a webcam and speakers built in, so if you need to take any video calls you're all set. And it comes with a mouse and keyboard, so you're good to go as soon as you open the box. As for which versions to get, I would recommend the base model versions for most people. The only thing I'd recommend upgrading is the storage, as you never know how much you're going to fill these up with photos and files, so best to upgrade early on. For the content creator, the MacBook Pro 14-inch or 16-inch are the computers for you. They're powered by the excellent M1 Pro and M1 Max chips, which pretty much set the benchmark for laptop performance and battery life in the industry. They even outperform a lot of full-size desktop computers. If you're a video editor, you can expect it to handle multiple streams of 4K and even 8K streams without it grinding to a halt. And rendering times are so much faster than they used to be. Now, if you're a photographer, animator, coder, graphic designer, the extra horsepower will come in handy here too. But all of this performance comes at a cost, so you'll have to evaluate whether you need this power, and then decide whether you need the M1 Max. Most people do not. The M1 Pro and M1 Max are essentially the same when it comes to CPU-bound tasks, like coding, and everyday tasks like web browsing. The M1 Max really sets itself apart in more graphically intensive tasks like video editing, 3D modeling, and machine learning. As for unified memory, it starts with 16 GB for the M1 Pro and 32 GB with the M1 Max, with that going all the way up to 64 GB of memory if you want to upgrade. Now, how much do you need? Well, that's very dependent on your workflow, but I'll send you over to this really good video by Max Tech where they go through the different unified memory options, and they discover that you actually need a lot less than you think you would. The screens on both of these machines are really a sight to behold. They're both using mini LED screen technology, which allows them to go incredibly bright and retain beautifully dark blacks as well. So the contrast here is amazing. They really are a pleasure to use. Everything from video editing or just watching a TV show, they really don't disappoint. So what about external monitor support? Well, one of my pet peeves with the original Apple M1 chip is that you can only have one external monitor support. While this is probably enough for most people, many creative professionals want more than that. So with the M1 Pro and M1 Max, you can have up to 3 external displays, and on top of that, 1 4K TV. The MacBook Pros also have the best speakers I've ever heard in a laptop, period. Honestly, just watching films and listening to music is a really immersive experience. The battery life is good on both, but if you want the best battery life, you should go for the M1 Pro variant, as the power-hungry M1 Max does take its toll on battery life. Now, if you care about battery life above all, then you're going to want to go for the 16-inch M1 Pro laptop, which has the best battery life in any laptop. So which size should you get? Well, this is mainly down to personal preference, but the 16-inch has a much larger display, so it's more ideal for multitasking. It has more screen real estate for professional applications, and it has better battery life when compared to the 14-inch. But it is quite bulky and heavy, so it's less ideal for traveling. The 14-inch is more compact and versatile. It easily slips into most bags. The same can't be said about the 16-inch, and yet it offers more or less the same performance as its larger brother. It's perfect if you'll be traveling often, and for most workloads, the screen size is the sweet spot. For both models, I would recommend at least 1 terabyte of storage, as creative work can take up a lot of storage, and it's best to future-proof now. Okay, finally, you're a super content creator, and you're editing 8K videos all the time, while compiling code, and editing photos, and you happen to have 260 tabs open at the same time. Well, if this is you, then the Mac Studio is a computer for you. The Mac Studio, to no one's surprise, is intended to be used in a studio environment. So it's perfect for professional video editors, music producers, and VFX artists, just to name a few. Now the Mac Studio comes either with the already excellent M1 Max or the M1 Ultra, which basically fuses 2 M1 Maxes together, resulting in crazy performance. Now, I think the M1 Max presents itself as a compelling alternative to the MacBook Pro. It comes in at the same price as the base MacBook Pro 14, and yet it offers much better performance. Obviously you don't get the screen, the keyboard, webcam or speakers, but if you already have all of those, then it presents itself as a really good deal. The M1 Ultra version, on the other hand, costs a whole lot more. And if you're watching this, you probably don't need it. The port selection is excellent, so you can say goodbye to all of those dongles we've been using the past few years. The Mac Studio is out now, but be aware that they're back ordered for the next couple of months. Just keep in mind you'll have to provide your own peripherals. Apple will gladly sell you its Studio display to accompany the Mac Studio. And also colour matched accessories, of course. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you found this guide to buying a Mac useful. For links and more information on all of the products I've mentioned, have a look in the description below. Honestly, as long as you don't buy an Intel Mac, then I don't think you can go wrong. This is a really excellent Mac lineup. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful, then please leave a like and subscribe. It really does help me in producing future videos. If you have any Mac related questions, then please leave a comment below. Until then, I'll see you next time.